Nancy is a longtime Eagle Forum member and leader. She has had an organization called Family Concerns, which was very effective all over the state of Georgia, and another one called Family Concerns Pregnancy Center. She has been in the Georgia State Senate for several terms and is a member of 6 Senate committees. Please welcome our good friend, Senator Nancy Scheafer.
Thank you, dear Phyllis, and thank you to all of you. I have served in the Georgia State Senate for 4 years. One of my greatest pleasures, other than my sonogram bill, was getting the resolution passed to stop the North American Union. However, for 4 years, I have been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services, and an update and copies are out on the table. During the last session of the Georgia General Assembly, I introduced Senate Bill 415 relating to juvenile proceedings, and copies of that bill are attached to the report on the tables. The Bill 415 called for the time allotted for the Department of Human Resources to provide emergency care to a child without a court order to be reduced from 7 days to 72 hours. It required a court order to enter the residence of a parent or guardian to seize a child. It called for family court to be open to the public. Confidentiality and secrecy in family court protects the wrong people. It provided that immunity in the system shall not extend to the seizures of children that are found to be in violation, nor to the administration of medication to a child over the objection of the parent or custodian, and it provided the state from applying for obtaining, receiving, or accepting adoption incentive payments under the Federal Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in Child Protective Services. I have come to several conclusions. 2 or 3 are: 1, that poor parents, not always, but oftentimes, are targeted to lose their children because they do not have the wherewithal to hire an attorney and fight the system. That caseworkers and social workers are very often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence. They fabricate evidence, and they seek to terminate parental rights unnecessarily. That the separation of families and the snatching of children is growing as the business grows because state and local governments have grown accustomed to having these taxpayer dollars to balance their ever-growing budgets. That the bureaucracy is huge. Look at who is getting paid: state employees, attorneys, court investigators, guardian ad litems, court personnel and judges. There are psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists, counselors, foster parents, adoptive parents, and on and on. All are looking to the children in state custody to provide job security. That the Adoption and the Safe Families Act, set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. In order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, local Child Protective Services would need more children. They must have merchandise that sells, and they must have plenty so the buyer can choose. Some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. But that is only the beginning figure in the formula in which each bonus is multiplied by the percentage that the state has managed to exceed its baseline adoption number. Therefore, states and local communities work hard to reach their goals for increased numbers of adoptions for children in foster care. As you can see, this program is offered from the very top and is run by Health and Human Resources. This is why victims in Child Protective Services get no help from their legislators. It explains why my bill, Senate 415, suffered such defeat in the Judicial Committee, and why I was cut off at every juncture, and why I was defeated myself last month for my re-election by another Republican. That tax dollars are being used to keep this gigantic system afloat. Many grandparents have called me to get custody of their grandparents before being lost in the system. Grandparents who lose their grandchildren to strangers have lost their own flesh and blood. The children lose their family heritage, and grandparents and parents too lose the connection of their heirs. And that the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later. Here are a couple of the recommendations on my list. Call for an independent audit of all state child protective services and for a federal congressional hearing on child protective services. Abolish the federal and state financial incentives that have turned child protective services into a business that separates families for money. I have witnessed such injustice and harm brought to so many families that I am not sure if reform of the system is even possible. The system cannot be trusted. It does not serve the people. It obliterates families and children simply because it has the power to do so. What I have said to you in these few minutes is that we must confront the fraud in child protective services. Child Protective Services seizes children using the very system that is paid for by the taxpayer, who actually believes it is used to protect abused and neglected children. The bureaucracy of workers benefit financially by a system that converts children into cash while destroying their families and their lives. No child who emerges from the system can ever be sound or whole. Many disappear and never are ever heard from again. God will not stand for what is happening to our children and our families. His heart beats for these children. He will lift up the downtrodden. What is happening in America regarding child protective services is a criminal political phenomenon, and it must be brought to an end. Please join me in working to help set our children and our families free. To whom much is given, much is required. As you pray for this nation, pray for the upcoming election, and for our national financial crisis, please pray for our children and for our families. We all must press on and win this race for America. Thank you very much.
Now arrives the hour of action.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury.
To subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws.
All experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And we're going to take our country back from these people.
We will take back our constitutional God-given rights. You damn right. You damn right.
Now arrives the hour of...
You damn right. You damn right. States are profiting off the destruction of our families. What do we want? Justice. States are profiting off the destruction of our families. You damn right. States are profiting off the destruction of our families. What do we want? Justice! States are profiting off the destruction of our families.
And we're going to take our country back from these people.
You damn right. You damn right.
Now arrives the hour of action.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first annual in Clarkesville, Georgia, Remembrance of Nancy Scheafer event live at 7:07. Live. So I've had an interesting couple of days. I finished the podium, spray paint, stain, polyurethane, and then let it dry, got it all set up, brought it out of the shop into like the staging room, getting microphones and all the connections together, and realized that I'm missing a lot of things, and I got tired, took a nap, and woke up a little bit late and feeling kind of sick from the fumes. I should have left it in the shop, not put it right next to my studio here / bedroom. But Nancy mentioned in that speech about 8 years later, 10 years later, what would those numbers be 10 years later? Now we're 8 years after that, or more so from that speech. I mean, we're looking at 20 years all told from what she was referencing, as far as the abuse children receive at the hands of foster parents. Like she said, children are far more likely to get abused in foster care than in the general public with their parents or extended family. So that prompts me to read this, and unfortunately I don't remember who wrote it. It's just something I saw and wrote down. First they came for the socialists. I'm sure you all have seen this. And I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And we are so lucky to have people in our community who are not victim advocates. Most of us are victim advocates, but there's a few, like Jennifer Wynn, John Gentry, who are victims of something else involving the system, property or criminal, who then understand that there's something wrong and are introduced to our community and become advocates with us, for us. And recently there has been some interesting comments from fringe groups saying, oh, if you're a part of the family court, the Title 4D, you have no business advocating for CPS, foster care reform. Which is the most insane thing I could ever imagine. People who are victims of family law, not, in these people's opinions, able to be advocates for another part of family law. Does that make any sense to anybody? No. We want to welcome anybody who's willing to advocate, like Nancy Scheafer, who by the way, was not a victim advocate. She saw the problems and was willing to do whatever she can to help. And we were much further when she was with us than we are now. So getting back to even where we were 8 years ago would be a huge step in the right direction. That's why I support anybody involved in this, anybody trying. Mr. Jackson running for governor in Illinois, I support 100%. Brian Lee's sister event to this in D.C., I support 100%. Anybody doing anything, I support 100%. And I implore everybody who is currently involved in any pockets of infighting to take a breath. Just stop whatever you're doing. Take a break, because eventually whatever you're mad about will go away and the big picture will come back, and you'll understand that if you're fighting the enemy, or if you're fighting ourselves, you don't have any energy to fight the enemy. And hopefully there's a few people watching involved in that infighting who will hear this and understand that not so long ago I was involved in fighting, which I am horribly embarrassed about now. A lot of it didn't come from me, it was other people, and I don't blame them anymore. I understand the passion. You have passion to fight, and we all have certain amounts of PTSD from this, some more than others. Some are very damaged. Some are more involved with changing the legal side, and some are more involved with the healing side and don't want anything to do with the legal side, and I understand that as well. The bottom line is we need help. We need big time help. We don't have a Nancy Scheafer anymore. She's long gone, and all we can do now is celebrate her life and hopefully try and use what she did and the memory of her in a professional and respectful way to bring more help, to help us. We're certainly not going to get that help if we look like a bunch of fools fighting each other. Keep that in mind, please. I know everybody has to reinvent the wheel. That's a problem. In history, we have a tendency to repeat history. Just look at CPS. Just look at family law, so family courts, the Title 4D side even, which is not quite as bad, but still it's a bad emolument, as Chris says. Nobody should be removed from their children for profit, whether it's to create non-custodial parents to benefit off the incentives, the Title 4D incentives off of child support, also the interest generated because they don't disperse the money instantly, they keep it for a week. So at any one time, a state will have millions or even billions of dollars in that account generating interest. That's a bad emolument. That should not be happening. They cannot profit off of people, destroy people's lives and profit off of them. That stops immediately. And the other side of that is, of course, the center of it is CPS, having basically a private organization claiming jurisdiction over families. That's something like that Jeff Sessions said. The lower courts are creating legislation, bypassing the legislative process. That stops. That has to stop. And then the other extreme side, where Nancy was heading down in her journey, the child trafficking, human trafficking, which Trump and Sessions have both recently mentioned. All of this is the same. It's all symbiotic. We all have to work to an end. You can't have, let's say, an organization called CPS that assumes jurisdiction over families and then not have a family court assuming jurisdiction over family. You can't get rid of one without getting rid of all of it. And like Nancy said, maybe it's not reformable. It is so far gone, 8 years ago, that it has to be completely dissolved and maybe not rebuilt. Like she said in the speech I shared yesterday with Alex Jones, we have police. Police are more than capable of picking up a child who's being abused, and they are more likely to reunite that child in a very speedy manner with extended family, and that's exactly what should be happening. We have a tendency as human beings, once we're accustomed or used to something, to just keep going with it, especially if you haven't been a victim of it. And to bring in people to help us, like Nancy Scheafer was helping us, is imperative. We need the public support. We can't look like a bunch of odd things or wackadoodles to the public. We won't get support. You understand? We have to be respectful of each other, helpful to each other to get anywhere in this. And so let's move on. There was a video I wanted to share, but I couldn't find it, of Pitts Park. I'm not sure what happened to it, but Belinda is finished with the schedule that will be published in local papers and shared with different communities in and around Habersham County. So let me bring that up. Let's go click out of studio mode here and bring up this. Here it is. Here is the formal document that that Belinda just finished. Excuse me. My voice is starting to crack. So, here it is. And there you see, can you see my cursor? Yes. Theodore Edward Davidson Fogg. As you can see, my name spells T-E-D. I'm not sure that's why I've always been called Ted, but I've been called Ted as long as I can remember. So, I'll do a quick intro. I'm not, most of it's going to be videos. There's a ton of news clips. For instance, Tori's Harper Fox 17 report, which is incredible. And then Belinda will do an opening prayer. Then we have performers, speakers, and then a candlelight vigil. And with the speakers, as long as the speaker is okay, and if there's time, we talked about having a little bit of a Q&A with each speaker, which would be great, especially with people like Laura Thompson, who will be speaking on mediation versus family court, and then John Gentry, who will be representing Kirk's Law Corner. Whew, man, I finished shoveling, and man, that took a toll on me. Breathe. And then we have performers down here. Uno momento, por favor. All right, I'm back. Sorry. So the performers, scheduled speakers, I'll just go over the performers real quick. Joyce the Voice. She's not from Alabama. She is from Connecticut. Okay, we've got to clear that up. I didn't look at Joyce, apparently you're from Alabama. That's all right. Sweet home Alabama. So she's going to be performing Nancy, Scream for Justice, and Scream for Justice. And then we have Sheila. That's a Spanish spelling of Sheila. I really like it, and sometimes I get I want to say Salida, but it's Sheila. There we go. She has it in parentheses, Alam. Is she from Birmingham, Alabama? I'm not sure. She'll be singing her song, Punished for Protecting, which most of us have heard. It's a wonderful song. And then another one we haven't heard called Stronger. Melanie Lee Herring of Georgia, Hush My Baby, Weight of My Cross, and Shekinah Glory, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and then Corinne Bosser Featherhoff from Pennsylvania, You Are My Sunshine, and then we have Billy Elson. And by the way, a lot of these performers are members of Francesca's organization, Punished for Protecting, and they've been a huge help. And he's just a great performer. I've heard him, and he'll be performing Light It Up, which might be during the candlelight vigil. He wrote Light It Up specifically for this event, and then he has an extended playlist. So whatever we have time for, Billy has more than enough moving songs. He has more than enough moving songs to fill up some time. And one thing I'd like to read, so I'll get rid of this, because some of the speakers don't necessarily want to make it public until they're there. But we have an amazing speakers list. And I want to reiterate, I don't know if you saw the post yesterday, and Belinda and I have been talking about this. At the request of the family, we would like all participants, whether you're speaking or not, to refrain from talking about how Nancy died. We are not conspiracy theorists. There is a legal conclusion to this, and the family accepts that, and they don't want to remember that. They want to celebrate their parents' life. So this is a celebration and a vigil, candlelight vigil, for Nancy and Bruce, and to remember everything she did for us, for family law reform, for the family rights movement. And like I said, losing her, we took a huge step back. We lost a lot of people. A lot of people even left the country, worried about said possible conspiracies. We are not there to reopen an investigation. That was a question mark at one point. Who knows what the future holds? I can't predict the future, but at the request of the family, please be respectful of them and celebrate Nancy's life and what she did for us, in the hopes that we can generate more support. I do have the Zoom meeting open if anybody wants to call in. The number's there below. But that's really all I wanted to say. If you were on that list, let's see, Jeff Morgan, Dallas, Texas, Lord Thompson, Colorado. So yeah, there's a couple of, I think all the addresses or the states connected to the names are correct, except for Joyce. Unless Joyce, you're originally from New York and now you live in Connecticut. So that's just the only one that has to be fixed. Belinda, I'm not paying attention to the comments. I should be. Get rid of that. Yeah, so this is, I shared this to a group that I found that Nancy was a part of, some people who were involved in her foundation, that I get from research I can find kind of ended in 2005 when she became senator. And what I said, what I basically said is there's people coming from all over the country to speak in support of this event. So yeah, the only person from Georgia who is speaking is Melanie. A lot of people like Terry LaPointe went to college in Georgia. One individual is from Georgia whose husband is speaking, or fiance rather. But yeah, this is a nationwide, a worldwide event, and you know, there's a couple of people in Canada who I would love to speak, but they're not going to be able to make it. I mean, there's so many people who I've reached out to, but yeah, this is, if you can imagine the resources spent for people to get to this and support this event, it's pretty huge. You know, going through all my stuff, I realized I'm missing a few things, like the small to big audio jacks, both male to female and female to male. I'm short on those. Also USB extension cords, cables, USB to HDMI cables, HDMI to DP cables, all those things I have an assortment of, but looking for it. If you have any female to male microphone cables or cords, please bring them. Any kind of fitting or cord you could think of, please bring, and I'll make sure to put blue tape and label it. I'm out of blue tape. If you have a roll of blue tape, bring that. You know, I finished this computer, finished fixing the computer. I basically had to rebuild everything, and it tapped me out. I don't even know how I'm getting to the event, honestly. I have my trailer for sale, and somebody's coming to look at it tomorrow, so I have to go out. I just finished shoveling, like I said. Ow. And I have got to pull the trailer out, get everything out so this guy can check it out tomorrow. Hopefully he buys it so I can make it and get some of these things like a roll of blue tape. And this is why usually for events you see a donation button, but this being the first event of the kind, you know, and I'm pretty used to getting poor off of this movement. Like the last shirts I made cost me $600, and I gave them all away, with the exception of Andy Scoggins and John Patton. Is it Patton? Who, you know, gave me a little bit of money, realized what, you know, they kind of supported what I was trying to do, and I can't thank them enough because it really helped me out. But you know, they were amazing shirts, expensive shirts, and I gave them all away. And for this event, you can't have an event without a shirt. And although I'm not trying to profit off of this event, shirts cost money, and this time I cannot give them away. I just can't. So the shirts will be $20, and they're sitting right here next to me. This is the shirt. It's the front. This is an extra large. It's big. So there it is. It's the emblem. See if I can get it so the camera can pick it up better. It's kind of whiting it out a little bit, but it's a beautiful shirt. $20, and if you can't afford $20, we'll work something out. But they'll be available at the event, and if there's any left over, I'll be able to give some away to people who can't make it. But I only have 60 of them, like 20 extra larges, 20 larges, 10 mediums, and 10 smalls, I believe. So those will be there. But yeah, now I understand why there's sometimes, if you look at larger events throughout the country, there's usually a donation button for things like blue tape, which I'm out of, and I can't even afford a pack of cigarettes. And you know, I felt sick today, right, from the stain and the polyurethane and the spray paint. You know, and I can't even contribute that to alcohol, unfortunately, and I can't even get a six-pack if I wanted to. That's how broke I am from this. So I'm just trying to get there, and we do not want to give off a perception that we're profiting off of Nancy's name. This isn't what it's about at all. And if you know me, you know I do everything I can for this community. And I know that GoFundMes don't usually work. I mean, victim advocates are usually here because they were financially destroyed by the system. So we don't have, like myself, don't have a lot of money to give. I've tried to give in the past. I used to have some money in PayPal. You know, I gave way back when Restoring Freedom $30. So technically I own stock in Restoring Freedom still. Since they're, you know, a corporation. And I've given, I can't remember the other one. I've given other people $10 here and $10 there when I've had money in PayPal. I don't have anything in PayPal, maybe a penny. So I've done what I've been able to in the past, and which has been very little. The best contribution I can make to this is what I'm doing now. Very interested in being able to use software like this. I've always really liked Photoshop and stuff. So making emblems, as you can see, I know I've got a plethora of emblems now and posters. GIFs, I've created so many GIFs, like the flag behind you is a GIF I created. Working with a lot of 3D animation now, which I haven't brought anything out, but like the multimedia broadcasting service, which I'm hoping I can use, since I'm not sure if I'm ever going to go back to contracting. I'm hoping that could be a service I could provide for anybody outside of our community, even as a way for me to make a living. And so the first thing I'm doing is making my first 3D animation using that. It's pretty fun. It's hard though. Any software like OBS there's a steep learning curve, and once you get it, I mean, there's a few things of OBS, a few plugins I don't use, and with Windows 10 there's a few things that I used to use that are not working, and I haven't had time to figure out why they're not working. But once you get to a certain point with software like this, and you have a rebuilt computer, it's incredible what you can do. You know, if you remember back a year ago now, starting out with this laptop, which is now fixed again. Where, can you see it? Yeah, here it is. I just took it apart last night. I was trying to do some work while Kirk's Law Quarter was broadcasting on this computer. I was trying to do some video editing on the old laptop, and it would just, within 10 minutes, overheat and shut down. So I took it all apart down to the motherboard. And Chris Hallett can attest to that, because I'm like, see, I had the motherboards flapping around in the case. Took it all apart, got the air compressor and blew it all out. The freaking thing is working like brand new. Because I was very concerned if I'm going to use this laptop to project videos of Nancy. Now I'm hoping to have video intros of all the speakers. So by the way, if you're watching like Laura Thompson, I'm going to use that Punish for Protecting video you made and I edited for your intro, since that's the only video I have of you. Jeff Morgan, there, I haven't looked at your stuff, but there's plenty of video you have done. Amazing video. I just love that you're at all the major events and you take video, and you're going to be at this event to speak. So that should be an easy edit for me. And Brian Kinter, there's plenty of video of you that I can get. And then I have, yeah, I've got plenty of video that I've been editing. And I've been in the editing mood. So anyways, yeah, if I'm going to project, I can't have this thing overheat and shut down. And it's blowing out every little component last night. It's running beautifully. I'm so excited. So let's see. Let's look at any questions. Oh, thank you, Ronald. Ronald Pierce has been doing a lot of videos lately. He did a Christmas video. He's a very talented guy, Ronald Pierce, and I'd love to do more work with him. I use Magic and Adobe Effects myself. Yeah, Adobe being so expensive, I don't use Photoshop anymore. I can't afford it. So what I found is a shareware or freeware or what do they call it? Publicware? I don't know. Program called GIMP. And I love it because it's just like Photoshop back in the 90s. And I remember Photoshop in the 90s, I know backwards and forwards. So the learning curve with GIMP was, I got it down instantly. Making GIFs and all kinds of stuff. I love that program. If you haven't tried out GIF, download it. It's fantastic. And as far as 3D stuff, Blender is the way to go. It's another community-supported program that does 3D animation, and all of the stuff on there was created by Pixar mostly, and people who use Blender have gone on to get jobs with Disney, Pixar, and others like that. So if you have a child who's interested in software and doing YouTube videos and wanting to be YouTube famous, point them in the direction of Blender. You know, I learn a lot of these things so I can help teach my son later. Like I have this clunky old CNC machine and I got it because I knew I wanted my son to understand this stuff. Well, anything like 3D printing, you need to understand 3D animation like Blender. So if you start learning a program like that, you can teach your kids. I just got a message from Sheila. What does that say? When you're done with the live, tell me how you do the flag behind you. Well, that's OBS. So you create an image, you create a GIF in GIMP, and you just put it in OBS. That's simple as that. Yep, Tatiana is writing with Ed Elliott. You guys are amazing. You're picking up Joyce the Voice from Connecticut, not Alabama, and which is way out of your way, and Ohio and Pennsylvania. Laurel Jimenez, I'm counting quarters to pay bills. Yeah, I know. Believe me. Yeah, animation for adults would be good too, like Ronald is saying. Divorce Corp, if you guys haven't seen that documentary, check it out. Divorce Corp. Corporation, not divorce court. So I got a little bit off with all the personal stuff, obviously, but if you have any questions about the event, if you see anything in that schedule that you need amended, now's the time. But it looks pretty good. I don't think Joyce would be mind in the schedule saying that she's from Alabama. There's worse mistakes than that, let me tell you, that I've seen over the years. Mispronunciation of names and everything like that. And that can of course be, you know, when she's introduced Joyce the Voice from Connecticut in person. I'm sure that would fix that. But please reach out to me or Belinda if you have any questions. There will be, I think it says in here, there will be time at the beginning possibly for like open speakers, open mic, if you want to go up and speak. Pretty much right when we get started off, when it's mostly just us. So you don't have to worry about setting an example to local people and Nancy's friends and colleagues if you're speaking for the first time, but you would like a shot at it, because we all have a time when we speak for the first time. So the people on the speakers list will be speaking a little bit later, maybe in between the performers. It's just going to be such an amazing event, and I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm going to get there no matter what, even if I have to hitchhike. You know, obviously, since I started it, I can't not be there. Plus, I've got to bring the podium, all, you know, the equipment, the videos, my laptop, and everything. So I'll get there one way or the other. I do have one seat open if anybody wants to go from the northern New England area, where we just got another 6 inches of snow. I thought we were over. I thought it was done. You know, we got dumped on 18 inches, and I'm like, all right, that's it. That's all we're going to get. But no, it can snow all the way through April, you know, up here. And I got the podium done, and when I stage it, I'm thinking in my mind, oh, I could bring it outside. I could put it on the porch. We have a retention wall, which is a little bit higher than the stage. But I'm like, oh, I could go set it up on the retention wall, set up the cameras, do everything, do a test live so everybody can see how it's going to look. I'm like, no, there's like 4 feet of snow outside. I can't bring the freaking thing out. I can't do anything outside unless it's sledding or ice skating. I'm not going to bring out this podium I just finished and set it in 4 feet of snow. Set up my cameras in 4 feet of snow. It might be kind of, maybe I will. It'll be entertaining. See me work my ass off for a live feed. Beep. Anyways, we are at 7:41. I believe Jay Moss has his show coming up at 8 p.m. I don't know where it is, if it's on Blog Talk or on their page. You know, it has a very entertaining feel to that show. I enjoyed working on that show. But it's a lot of work. You know, the last show I did with them, that Halloween episode, I mean, we're talking like 40 hours of work. 40 hours for one show. And, you know, I spend a lot of time on this stuff. This show is relatively easy, an everyday show where it's, I don't have a guest usually, unless we've already thoroughly talked or talk on a daily basis like Belinda. So this is a pretty relatively easy setup, but some of these shows are you know, it's production heavy, and the Far From Normal show is definitely production heavy for me. I spent many hours on that show. So I don't know production wise how that show's going. I know it would be much nicer with video with a show like that. And part of the reason why I started producing other people's shows was back when there was, you know, division in the Million Parrot March. I wanted to show unity. And so like Brian Lee's Restoring Families Radio and Jay Moss's Far From Normal, that was, you know, not the best of relationships there. So I thought, well, if I could produce these shows, maybe I could bring them together. And that, of course, on one half blew up in my face horribly and created even more division within our community. You know, I've had a tendency to try to put myself in the middle and make people work together, but at the same time I'm in the mindset you can't force anybody to do anything. You'll just make yourself mad. You'll go mad. And you know, in trying to even at sometimes try and force people who hated each other to work together, it was a futile attempt on my part. So in the future, I won't be doing that. You know, if people are going to get along or they're not going to get along. People are going to create their own events. Sometimes there'll be 3, 4, 2, 5 events at the same time, same location, even though that seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot in a situation like that. In actuality, it'll just look like more support. Needless to say, I will not be getting involved in things like that in the future. And the only I'm going to be supporting and promoting a 4th of July Million Parrot March. But other than that, that's on the people organizing it. I'll do whatever they ask me to do, whoever they are. I'm not even sure that there's an organizers group, but the permits are pulled for that date. Trump is going to have a military parade, which we have the potential to be viewed by thousands of people, like more people than in all of our events combined on one day. And to me, that's the major focus. Legislators aren't going to care what we're talking about if we don't have public support. And that's why Nancy went to a lot of different events at the time. She was in a position to talk to legislators, but she didn't get a lot of support from them simply because there's not a lot of public support. Our focus, to me, my focus is public support, and others going in to politics. I applaud you. I mean, we need that, and you can reach the public through that. That's a great way to do it. For me, you know, I'm still trying to help promote and use this platform to get our word out as much as possible, and continue to help organize events or promote events any way I can. So with that, I love you guys. I don't see any other questions. I'm not really keeping on top of yeah, you know, I reached out to Tim at one point. Tim has a great show. I've listened to. I think he's very talented. I'd be interested in helping Tim. I think I asked him at one time, but it was just in a comment on one of his shares that he tagged me in, one of his Facebook posts. And maybe he's like me. I cannot keep track on the on Facebook notifications. But maybe I'll send him a message. I'd be more than happy to help produce Tim ScoMo's show, get it on video. Because how I do it, we're broadcasting on Facebook, Twitter, which is Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, obviously, a Russian platform called OKIU or something, which every once in a while you'll see a message pop up from them, which is cool, and a bunch, Mixer, Stream Me. I don't even remember now. Let's see, where's my cursor? Oh, here we go. I can bring up the list right here. So Periscope, Twitch, YouNow, it's OKRU, that Russian one. Picardo TV, Stream Me, Vaughn Live, Mixer, and there's a few new ones. Now, Facebook is a custom RTMP that costs $150 a year if you want to be able to restreaming. There's now a couple of new custom RTMPs, so if I wanted to add those, like Instagram, the Google video, the Google Groups videos, those are also custom RTMPs, $150 a year for each. I do not have $450, and then, by the way, the $150 I spent for this service is going to be up in a month or so, because I've been doing this for about a year. And at that point, I'll be putting my hand out, because I probably won't have the money to redo that. So the shows I do produce, I might be asking them for a little bit to help continue what we're doing, because it does cost money to do things this way, unfortunately. But that's what I want to do. I want to put us on every single social media platform possible, even gaming platforms. I've tried Smash TV, and we got our message out for quite a few months until they realized that I'm not doing gaming. It's not a gaming show, so they banned me from sharing content there, because I'm not doing, you know, I don't know, whatever freaking game you play on PlayStation or Xbox. What's that one my son likes? It's a first-person shooter game. I don't remember the name of it. But there's lots of people make a lot of money on YouTube playing games. I like Minecraft. Dan TDM. He makes a very nice living out of somewhere in Britain playing Minecraft. There's another Pat and Jen, another one my son likes. It's a married couple, and the cool thing about them is you saw them boyfriend and girlfriend playing Minecraft together, then fiance, now man and wife, still playing Minecraft, making a living playing Minecraft. And if you know anybody, if you have a son, niece, nephew who wants to try playing a game on social media, that's also a service I'd like to provide to people. I definitely want to try it out. Heck, I might play Minecraft and see if I can make some money on YouTube if I could play a game. What do you call it? Noob dad playing Minecraft, and I'll get like 1,000 thumbs down, but that's cool. I'll get the views, and then I'd be YouTube famous. So, anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up now that I've lost most of my viewers. I love you guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, get in touch with me or Belinda. Carpool. If you're not sure how you can get there, let me know, because we have people coming from all over the country who, some of them are flying, some of them are driving. So if you're in Texas, if you're in the Northeast, if you're in the Northwest, Southeast, get in touch with me, and I'll try to get people together. I know there's still organizing going on in the Orlando area. So if you're anywhere in Florida, if you could at least get yourself to Orlando or somewhere close to Orlando, we've got somebody who needs help with gas money to get there and back. All she needs is you to get in touch with her. And like Ed, I think, still has room, and he's going to be Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Virginia, boom, or North Carolina. He's picking somebody up, and then Georgia. So he's going to be like zigzagging down the East Coast. So if you're anywhere on the East Coast, let me know, or get in touch with Ed Elliott, and we'll get you down there. And like I said, I have one more seat. If you're in the central Northeast Kingdom, reach out and we'll get you there. So I love you guys. Have a great night. I'm feeling better now. Feel a lot better tomorrow, and hopefully I'll have a video of Pitts Park to show you tomorrow. Good night.
Now
concludes
the hour of action.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury.
To subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws.
All experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And we're going to take our country back from these people.